What's up, you guys? We're here for our weekly reflection message. Just taking a look back at the week and coming to culmination of the revelation of the last few days. So earlier in the week, we had the cave, the temple, and the Father. And the tarot cards underneath were Judgment, Five of Wands, and the Eight of Cups. The Five of Wands, I've got to show you, it's really interesting, is depicted like this kind of force of destiny moving around these like red and blue pieces on a chessboard. And what's going on right now at home here, I'm in Tennessee, I live in Nashville, is the Tennessee legislature just met here this week and came to a ruling yesterday that overturned the law that protected racial gerrymandering, or protected the people against racial gerrymandering. Some of the worst racial injustices have occurred here in Tennessee, but also some of the biggest moments in the history of civil rights, right? And so here we are again, repeating history. And it's so obvious what's happening. And it's so corrupt. And we live in a Republican supermajority here in Tennessee that are really bought and paid for. And so they don't really serve any of their constituents, whether they're voters or not. They don't need their vote really, because they've arranged the maps in such a way where they've cheated, sometimes legally, sometimes not. In this case, it's not, because they tried to do this in the middle of a census period, which is goes against state constitution. So they changed the law so that they could retroactively not be prosecuted for what they're doing. So this was just when they ruled in favor of this horrible bill yesterday, all of these, historic civil rights fighters, all of the Black lawmakers and the Democratic lawmakers in Tennessee, especially from Memphis, where District 9 was being disenfranchised, they all showed up, and it looked amazing and sharp, and it made it a historical civil rights day of speaking the truth, calling truth to power, and speaking this out, calling it out for what it is, and trying to save and change the verdict. But just the Republican Party here is really calloused, and so they snickered and laughed in their face and closed the doors of the chambers on them while they went and signed this over into law. And so they are now going to blend Memphis into these counties that stretch pretty much all the way into the middle of the state, all the way to Williamson County, which is right near outside of Nashville, Davidson County. So taxation without representation. So it is a step backwards. It is a step of hatred and injustice. And so it's been really heart-wrenching here at home for the last few days. And in some ways, watching this play out, I'm so proud of the people who were there and spoke so strongly and so eloquently, and made history once again. And I'm so ashamed of the people in the state government who ruled with the side of just darkness and prejudice and tyranny and control and power and corruption. I'm just I'm so sick of it. But, I was studying the wheel of emotion this week. That was one thing that I was going to do a video about Wednesday. Because I didn't get to do our reading Wednesday, I had to go into work early, and I was like, maybe I'll just do another kind of video that's talking about how to approach the emotional work and self-reflection and spiritual work and all that. And I downloaded a while back this infograph from the internet, and it's the Wheel of Emotions. And it shows this color coding and all of these slices of a wheel of all of the core human emotions laid out and grouped together in accordance with their root emotion and their secondary emotion, or their primary emotion, their secondary emotion, or their whatever, however they but it's like 3 layers of like these like slices that go out in rings. So there's all these like core emotions that branch out into a variety of subtle variations of these emotions. And you wouldn't necessarily think that those feelings were connected unless you're like looking and just like kind of taking in this infograph. And so I found it really amazing and surprising and enlightening that I'm looking at all of the feelings that have been invoked in me through, just a daily basis. And the majority of the feelings on the wheel of emotion, like 4 out of 6 of them, I think, are in the negative, low vibrational emotions. And 2 of the slices are rooted in actually positive, high vibration emotions. And so I thought it was very interesting how easy it is to slip into negativity, negative emotions, negative thinking, and that those negative emotions are like, sort of like a filter on everything that you're perceiving and how you're reacting and how you're handling yourself. So I thought that was interesting. And then last night's Kabbalah class was talking about this idea specifically. It's like about overcoming your natural inclination and about how to be able to more sharply discern like when you're giving in to your sort of negative, easier, lesser nature, and when you are being reactive and when you're actually being proactive and maybe going against your nature, but it's fuzzy on like what's the right thing to do in that situation. So the class was really interesting. It was like basically like the root of your consciousness, what you truly desire is actually going to tell the truth in the end. That's really what directs the manifestation. So it almost doesn't matter sometimes what you say you want, what you say you're doing or manifesting, or the words that you use per se, but it's the energy and the desire that sets those words in motion that flavor the power and the impact that those words will have as they manifest. So it's very interesting. So then it goes to say, okay, our consciousness is what informs our inclination on how we're going to react or perceive in any given situation, right? And so if we are doing our spiritual work, then our effort, our purpose in this life, in the most general terms, is to overcome our reflexive inclination, our easy nature, like what comes naturally to us, our natural inclination, if it's to shy away from the situation in fear, or if it's to pop off in the situation in impulsivity. It's really to practice restriction on our reflexive response mechanism, whatever it is for us, and see, okay, don't have a reflexive response mechanism. That is being triggered into an autopilot that takes you out of sovereignty, that takes you out of affinity with the Creator, which takes you out of your self-control, out of your free will. So pause. What's my inclination here? Pause. What do I want to do? How do I start by getting worked up? The thoughts, the feelings that follow, I'm getting worked up, and then what do I do? What do I always do? What's the pattern that plays out? What action do I end up taking? How am I affected by the situation? That's the inclination. And then we need to overcome that. And so here are some notes on this, and I think it's really relevant. And then we're going to get into the cards, because I think having this as a foundation of understanding, when we see the cards, it's going to be like, oh, they're going to make so much more sense and have so much more depth. So, okay, so the passage that was being studied from the Zohar says, "Who is mighty? He who subdues his inclination. And these are those for whom it becomes a donkey that causes no trouble to its rider. And they are the ones who make efforts by exposing inference from minor to major. And this is why it is written by Abraham, or about Abraham and saddled his donkey." Oh, and so this is what is written by, about Abraham, and he saddled his donkey. And this is why it is also said about Messiah, humble and riding upon a donkey. So the word for donkey in Aramaic has the same letters as the Aramaic word for the material, right? The material world. So when a person is able to overcome their attachment to the material world, he will be able to overcome the inclination that follows that. So our spiritual work in this world is that we are the ones subjugating and taming or overcoming the inclination that we have within, and then it can serve and support us instead of being like a burden or a destructive mechanism, right? Something that gets in the way or causes it to be like a snare and a stumbling block. So making efforts to expose seemingly minor things as major things. Don't minimize the little foxes that spoil the vine, right? When you're dependent on something or attached to something so strongly, it has like control of you and you don't have control over it. So little things you could dismiss are the ones that kind of grow into the most insidious influences over time, kind of influencing everything from a place of unawareness or shadow or out of being in the illumination, right? Not being aware of it. So we have to identify our inclination and name it. Judgment or anger, indignation, outrage, sadness. When a person can successfully subjugate our inclination, it loses control over you. So taking small things and making them big, which means don't dismiss the little things and making them seem like they're not important. And then they're the ones that get you in trouble later. They build over time. They create habits and unseen patterns, right? And reflexes. But also in the paradox the mystic is always asked to hold, we don't want to we want to take big things and make them small things, like mountains that seem insurmountable. Like, for instance, having a state government that's like a majority superpower over the other side. It feels like disempowering, or they want you to make you feel disempowered. But it's like, okay, well, I don't need this solution, because God can send another solution to overturn the situation. So hope is not lost, and that's exactly what they want you to think, right? So when a person can successfully subjugate our inclination, it loses control over you. If you don't need other people's approval, then you're free to go off and follow your heart and do what you feel is right, right? You don't feel like you have to perform and people please for others, like abandoning yourself in the process, right? If you don't need, say, the validation or affirmation that comes from romantic love or even a lustful eye of the opposite sex, then you're not controlled by them if they're not treating you well, right? And you don't need the relationship. You're not afraid to be, independent for a minute, or you're not afraid of solitude. So take small things and make them big, meaning pay attention and don't dismiss it. Take big things that are triggering and make them small. Like you can take on big things. We can handle hard things and take them on and piece by piece, manage it and handle it. Nothing is insurmountable. The quickest way to break the inclination is to name the discomfort and feel it. There's the feeling, and then there's the behavior. And then there's the thing that we fill the feeling with. Name the pain, name the feeling, name what we are filling it with. So notice I'm saying feeling like F-E-E-L-I-N-G. So name the pain, name the feeling, feel, but then name the thing that we are filling that void with. Is it run off and talk about it to everybody you know to get some energy and like relief and like blow off some steam and feel vindicated? Like what is your pattern, right? Is it impulse purchasing, or like overeating, or impulsive behaviors or addictive behaviors, or just like little things? Are you opening your boundaries too porously to people please? Are you look at yourself, look at these inclinations. So what is the feeling? Like what is triggering you? When do you get reflexive? What is your inclination to do from there? What are you reaching for based on that feeling and those thoughts? Okay, I need attention. I'm lonely. I need attention. I'm trying to get attention from people that are irrelevant in my life, or, just people on the internet that I want to get high off their attention, or talking to an ex that I don't need to talk to get attention, right? It's like feeding that inclination, right? When we can see where we're needy and where we have lack and where we're trying to fill that lack, then we can feel that feeling and just be comfortable in the discomfort. And when it's not an issue, it won't be an issue. Remember, we were talking about that a while back. So when you feel that behavior and you realize that the discomfort of it is not going to kill you, it starts to like disarm that dread for you, and everything about this situation starts losing its hold over you. You don't need, you're not attached. So name the pain, name the feeling, name what we are filling it with. Naming the inclination is what we are filling the lack with. What we reach for, instant gratification or relief, pause. Don't fill the lack. Don't fill the lack, but feel the lack. Okay, I'm okay. I don't need to have an impulsive behavior to get out of this discomfort. I can sit in it for a second and observe it. Don't fill the lack. Follow back where it came from. What is the feeling? Feel the pain. Sit in the pain that says, whoa, this sucks. Then the inclination and the concepts that were built to fill that lack will be broken down so that our soul can finally be free. It's an active thought process it's an active thought process that is ruling everything. So I'll read that passage once more from the Zohar. And who is mighty? Okay, hold on. I'll start over. Who is mighty? He who subdues his inclination. And there are those for whom it becomes a donkey that causes no trouble to its rider. And they are the ones who make efforts by exposing inference from minor to major. And this is why it is written about Abraham and saddled his donkey. And this is why it is also said about Messiah, humble and riding upon a donkey. The word for donkey is the same letters as the word for material. So when a person is able to overcome their attachment to the material, he will be able to overcome the inclinations that follow that. Okay, so I love that lesson. Now, I will let you guys listen to the audio real quick, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about the cards. But first, I'm going to show you the cards. So for this week, we've got optimism, looking back on the week. Arriving at this moment, we need to have optimism, adaptability. And just in case the astrology is relevant, we've got Moon in Sagittarius for this card of optimism. We have the Moon in Gemini for adaptability. We have Jupiter in Virgo for patience. I know there's a lot going on in the sky right now, so these are all, I think Mercury's doing a thing, or Pluto's retrograde in Mercury, Gemini maybe. I might be wrong about that, but I think that's right. The Sun in Taurus here, acquisition. All right, and so underneath optimism, we have 7 of Pentacles. Underneath adaptability, we have 4 of Swords. Under patience, we have 7 of Cups. And under acquisition, we have the Empress card. Okay, I'm going to pause and then we'll come right back. Yesterday, the world watched as history was being made, and in many ways, quite literally repeating itself. The Tennessee legislature voted to break up the last remaining Democratic and, most importantly, a historically Black district, which organically, not bureaucratically, existed in Memphis. Memphis was collectively disenfranchised, but specifically Black voters in this district. This is more than a slap in the face to the elders of the civil rights movement, but so much more. It's tempting to feel discouraged, but be emboldened. This moment is divinely ordained to crush and obliterate this hatred and prejudice once and for all. The opponent wants us to feel hopeless and powerless, but many seeds require being crushed to propagate. The darkness can no longer hide. It's been exposed. The light has seeds well planted to bring about true justice and equality, unity and peace. And this moment is awakening even more people to a truth that is spreading like wildfire. We must stay optimistic, determined, and hopeful. It doesn't matter how they change the maps once we have changed the consciousness of every individual who lives within them. We must not become obsessive and consumed with the maps alone, but also seek to turn our adversaries into comrades. People can change. We must harness this moral outrage into true transformation. We, the people, are all facing the same challenges, and we want generally the same things. We have to wake up to the fact that they want us divided, but united we will stand. This is a mystical spiritual law. Unity trumps division. Seeds are being planted at this critical juncture. It's important we nurture them carefully. Okay, so I love the card that's like optimism. Have optimism because 7 of Pentacles. The 7 of Pentacles card describes a moment where we are feeling really impatient and we're staring at the garden and wondering if anything is going to sprout. And so this is a card that talks about having patience and just trusting that seeds are well planted and that growth and change are on the way and that they are on the way, and to be encouraged and to not start yanking the sprouts up from under the soil, right? Good things are coming. So stay optimistic. The situation would have us feel otherwise. It would have us feel despairing and disgust and outrage, which we do. We do feel the outrage and disgust, but we're transmuting that feeling into optimism and determination, right? And here I'm noticing that the symbolism on 7 of Pentacles in this particular deck has a woman holding all these bags with all of these like money, like symbols, the pentacles. And it's like, we are all in the same struggle. We're all struggling to make ends meet and have the basics right now. And so people are starting to realize and awaken that we're not, it's really the people against this very elite, small percentage of a ruling class that have the old government in their clutches, essentially. And so there is a revolution and a shift happening right now, and grassroots new people are coming up with different perspectives and ideals because they're in it with us. They don't own anything either. They're broke too. So they're fighting, and this day it was meant to make people feel disempowered, but it is only going to serve to expose something that is going to be the last straw for a lot of people. Again, all of these things that are coming out in waves are the this is it for me moment for a lot of people. And so although it feels like they're like, well, they're rigging the elections and so our vote won't matter, it won't matter what those district lines look like if we start changing the consciousness of so many people within those districts that no one's going to go along with this evil plotting anymore, right? It's exposed for what it is now. And so, you know, like it talks about in the Bible, Nicodemus points out, at least, that he warns that if, you know, they make John the Baptist or Jesus, I can't remember which one. It was like, if you martyr him, you're going to crush a seed that's then going to spread and propagate and make this person into a martyr and start this wave of a revolution, of a movement, right? And so this is a moment where it feels like our seeds were crushed in a way, but the seeds are being crushed that are propagating wildfire to move through the hearts of so many people and bring us into unity. In, what is it, the Pledge of Allegiance, united we stand, divided we fall, is that in the Pledge of Allegiance? That is a mystical truth, and that is in the Torah, that when the Israelites were in unity, that they were blessed and their prayers were answered and nothing could put us under, right? But when we're divided, we lose our potency. It's about having affinity with the Creator, and the affinity, to have affinity with the Creator is one, echad. This is part of the Shema, something that we should be saying every day. And so to be in unity is to bear affinity with the Creator. To be divided is to lose affinity with the Creator. And so that was a magical declaration when they said, united we stand, divided we fall. That is a metaphysical truth right there. So knowing that we're all up against the same issues, or it's going to start uniting us, and we're going to be collectively disgusted eventually in mass, and we're going to hit a critical mass, and it won't matter how they draw the maps because no one will be going along with their deceit anymore. All right, but this is why we can't get obsessed over the system, like getting completely tunnel vision over the maps. That's important. But in addition, we have to be adaptable, right? And take time, Four of Swords, take time out to catch our breath, right? And this can apply to any issue that you're up against a mountain in your life, right? But right now I'm relating it to the collective, you know, that is watching the Southeast right now. And a domino effect have to deal with this. And so we need to take a breath and recenter our inner peace, and knowing that good is going to triumph over evil, and we have to adapt our approach and our perspective and our strategy. And yes, we need to keep our eyes on these maps, and yes, we need to have counteraction in other parts of the country, but I think we also need to change. We need to be changing the collective consciousness through helping people wake up to see that we have collective issues here. We all need better healthcare and better, like, affordable healthcare. We need lower groceries, prices. We need, reform and limitations on and oversight over corporate corruption and greed. And, there's so many areas that need to be reined in, right? So we all have collective agreement on so many things. And so it's about finding our agreement and seeing the plot to turn everyone in, to break up our collective vote against them, because we see the darkness for what it is. Does that make sense? Like in a micro way, they're trying to break up these districts to dilute their vote. But in a greater sense, in a macro sense, they're trying to break up our consciousness and cause division between us to dilute our collective vote, because they're so outnumbered. There's literally hundreds of millions of people against a few, and so they don't want us to figure that out, right? So we need to take a breath, recenter, regain our peace within the fact that this is a destined moment, and And it's going to be a moment that's a transformative moment that can shift our consciousness, because now we're seeing what's really there. So have patience through this, because Seven of Cups, it's like people are seeing like these options or these illusions that are put before them. And so they're kind of coming out of this illusion and seeing all of these fever dreams that have been spun for what they are, right? They're seeing through the deceptions and the propaganda and the trickery, right? And they're seeing it all for what it is, and they're realizing that there are better choices, and they're decisively coming to a conclusion to take a different road, to have a better choice, to have a better experience, to choose differently. So it's like we are in a window of opportunity where people are like, they're falling off right and left. The war in Iran and everything around that's involved, and the domino effect that's happening from there. It's really getting people on their last straw. So now is the time to help awaken that collective consciousness in terms of acquiring new friends and new supporters, rather than continuing to divide and be distracted by the dangling of the bait that the adversary is trying to tempt us into: distraction, fighting, being at odds, right? But there are so many things that we can collectively come together on. And so the Empress is here, and it shows the masculine and the feminine energy coming up together up here in the sign of Taurus, Sun in Taurus, which is like, physical materialization of the Venus, Libra, the scales of justice, right? So masculine and feminine, ideal coming into action and materialization, spiritual inspiration, taking the form of action, right? Becoming materialized, giving birth, right? So we're giving birth to new things, and this can be very fruitful, right? If we make a positive effort to feed and nurture the right seeds right now in the right consciousness, and have patience and have optimism, and believe that this is a moment that does look scary and it does look intimidating, and it is sad, and it strikes moral outrage, but hopefully this will prompt true awakening and transformation and change for the future. All right, and so on that note, I want to end with the third psalm, which I like to read when I'm feeling really overwhelmed by life's challenges. A psalm of David when he fled from Absalom, his son. Lord, how many are my adversaries become? Many are they that rise against me. Many there are that say of my soul, there is no salvation for him in God. But thou, O Lord, art a shield about me, my glory and the lifter of my head. With my voice I call unto the Lord, and he answereth me out of his holy mountain. I lay me down, and I sleep. I awake, for the Lord sustaineth me. I am not afraid of 10,000s of people that have set themselves against me round about. Arise, O Lord, save me, O my God, for thou hast smitten all my enemies upon the cheek. Thou hast broken the teeth of the wicked. Salvation belongeth unto the Lord. Thy blessing be upon thy people. Amen. All right. Shabbat shalom. Have a good weekend. I will see y'all tomorrow night for Secret Teachings of Jesus. Till then, peace.